Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to talk about building agents with Agent Builder and Microsoft 365 Copilot. I'm with Tim Blake. I'm going to give you a brief overview of Copilot Agents, a live demo. We're going to discuss the differences between Copilot Studio and Agent Builder, and then we'll do our little wrap up or conclusion. So here's a brief overview before we jump into the demo about what Copilot agents actually are and what can they do for you. You can think of agents as a specialized helper or specialized helpers inside Copilot 365. They're not magic bots running wild, and they're not replacing what you do. They're really helping you with repeatable, annoying stuff that eats up time in your day. For example, sending follow-ups, digging through the last pricing you sent, pulling up specs, or figuring out which quotes or orders need attention. That's where agents can shine for you. The important thing to know is that agents only work with the data you already have access to in the Microsoft 365. They have that data in the universe of Microsoft 365. So your emails, files, Teams chats, if you can see it, you can use it. And if you can't see it, the agents can't use it either. So all your existing permissions and security features for Microsoft 365 stay intact and consistent. Another way you can think about all this is instead of starting from scratch each time, writing the same follow-up email, answering the same warranty or lead time questions, you can lean on an agent that knows how you work and helps you move faster instead of you having to do the repeatable work over and over again. So here's three things we are just going to give you as practical examples of that. For instance, you can build a Copilot agent that does quote follow-ups as well as follow-ups on other topics, helps you stay on top of the quotes, draft the emails, provide other information back to customers, pull last pricing or specs quickly and much faster than having to open up and look at an Excel spreadsheet or a PDF, and provide you clear steps for next actions so that nothing stalls. Another example of great agent would be a product and spec lookup agent for those day-to-day product questions that you get, whether you're inside or outside sales. Instead of digging through folders, trying to find a spec sheet or submittals, install guides, you can load all that information, as Tim will show you in the demo. Loading up information in Copilot makes it much accessible, much easier to be accessible and much faster. And then finally, another example is a customer communication assistant, which helps you with email overload. It can summarize long emails, long email threads, draft customer specific replies, so you're not rereading email chains just to figure out what's going on. None of these actually change how you sell. They just help you move faster, stay organized, and keep deals moving. With that in mind, let's go ahead and show you a little about how these agents actually work. So I'm going to turn it over to Tim Blake with BBB Techs. Tim?
Thank you very much, Steve, and greatly appreciate that intro. Before we do dive in, I just want to set the expectation that what we're going to show does require some fundamental knowledge of Copilot. We'll be looking at some more advanced features, so I do recommend checking out Stephen Turner's other video to learn about some of the basics and understanding Copilot from a general chat perspective, as agents are a little bit more of an advanced topic. Now, with that being in mind, to really help set the foundation for our session, I will be demonstrating agents from the Microsoft 365 Copilot desktop app, which can also be accessed by going to m365.cloud.microsoft. I've installed it on my computer from the Microsoft Store. Now, the first place that we see agents is on our left-hand side here. Once we come to the agent store, we can see a list of different agents like Researcher, Analyst, PowerPoint. These can be tools to help you build decks, create documents, and more. We'll look at creating our own agent in a second, but to give you a quick flavor of what they can do, we're going to check out the Researcher agent here. The Researcher agent is a great tool to help us dig deeper into finding information, to help us get more of a conversational style AI, where it'll work with us and ask us questions. One thing I recommend doing is going into the top right-hand corner and switching your model to Claude when leveraging the researcher agent, as it will do a little bit more deeper thinking. They call this anthropic models, where it acts and feels more like a human to have more of a dialogue and a conversation with you. Now, I have a sample prompt here that I want to try together that would resonate with you in the shoes of a rep agency. So here I'll ask our researcher agent to help review our internal sales and commission report, give a short executive summary, help identify where sales are growing. I'll even link that commission report. Here, I just pasted in the hyperlink, but you can always add those files by leveraging the / and selecting it from the reference pane. Once I fire off this conversation, because I'm using the researcher agent, before it tries to quickly give me a response, it's going to have again more of that dialogue with me. The researcher agent will ask me questions. It'll help clarify its purpose and intent. And it even has some really cool built-in features where it can build graphs and charts and actual visuals like KPIs, so it can help you be a little bit more targeted. So here I'll go ahead and I'll ask the researcher agent. I could help clarify some of these items, or if I wanted to jump in, I could just say, go ahead. Once I fire that off, it's going to start to clean this up, and it's going to start to look for different trends inside of the file. Like I mentioned, the big difference here between this and our normal chat is it helps us dig deeper into the pain point. Researcher will also spend a lot more time thinking about the response. Sometimes it can take between 5 and 10 minutes to help return that result, as it has to think a little bit deeper. So here it's going to go through my Excel report. It's analyzing information. Notice how researcher agent gave us a detailed summary of all the information that we asked about. It helped us go over our year to date, our overall territory performance, our wholesale information by customer segment, and really broke this down with comprehensive information. As mentioned, this may take time to pull all of your information together, but it goes much more above and beyond than the type of information that you would get in a generic Copilot chat. If you would like to change or refine how you're working with a researcher agent, I recommend looking at some of the models in the top right-hand corner above. Here you can choose to use GPT, which I feel like is a little bit quicker, but not always as accurate. You can also leverage GPT and Claude together using Model Council, or you can leverage just Claude's Anthropic Deep Reasoning model, which will help you get more of a humanistic style response. Anthropic is really just a fancy word for teaching AI to act and feel more like a human. With that being said, we looked at one example on how the researcher agent pre-built by Microsoft can help us find and research information leveraging AI agents. The next thing that I'd like to show you is creating our own agent. To create your own agent, you can select the new agent button on the left-hand side, which will open the agent builder window. Here, we can leverage a conversational AI style to talk to Copilot to assist us in building an agent. Now, what this will do is it will help us come out with the foundational agent configuration information. But I don't want to use this to build an agent together. I've already pulled an example that I'd like to set up with you called the Rep Pricing and Spec Assistant Agent. So instead of working with Copilot to help me build this out, if maybe I really don't know where to start, I'm just going to jump to this skip to configure section, which will let me build the bare bones of this agent. Now, if again, you don't have some of this information predefined, it's more than okay to work in that chat box to help you build out this content. Second thing will be to give it a description. The description for your agent lets people know more about what it's for. In our scenario, we're going to build an agent that will look across our many pricing catalogs as well as our specs to help us be able to quote customers while we're either on a call or to go back and find information if we have to pull together some specifiers. The next thing when building an agent is the instructions. This is the most important part of an agent. When I'm building this agent, I want to define clearly what its purpose, its intent, and what its goal is. I want to tell it its parameters. Think about an agent as a child. When that child is first born, it knows nothing. And these instructions are the years that you're investing into this agent to give it your institutional knowledge so that it knows more about the workflow that you're trying to accomplish. Stephen mentioned earlier that agents are not meant to replace end-to-end processes. I'm not creating this so that I can set it and forget it. I'm building something that will help me work more effectively. Think about them as personal productivity partners. They aid you in getting work done faster. They don't completely automate an end to end business process. Once you've clearly defined those instructions, and again, you can use this chat over here to help you define what those might be a little bit more, then we have to set our knowledge. This is where the agent is pulling information from. Now, I'm sure many of us reps have worked with a file like this before. I'm going to go ahead and open one up that I have as an example. So here I have this Brava Flow Excel sheet. This is a completely fake and fictitious manufacturer, but we've probably seen something where we have the model number, the description, the list price, the status, and all of this different information that was given to us by our manufacturers. Now, this can be a lot to dig through when we're quickly trying to find pricing or even pull up a proper spec for a customer. Instead of having 5 or 6 different Excel spreadsheets to dig through, we can build this agent to look across all of them at once. So I have all of those files inside of a folder. In my knowledge section, I'll click my little blue cloud icon here, which will allow me to find where that folder lives. Now, the document has to live in OneDrive or SharePoint. On the left-hand side, I can access my different SharePoint sites. Here, I have all of these documents saved under my AMAR channel, in my Agent Builder section, and my pricing and spec file examples. Here I have 3 different pricing Excel files like I just showed you, one for Aquila Plumbing, Blue Steam Pipe, and Brava Flow. Also in this same folder, if I head back one level, I have some different specifiers. These are PDFs that help me find out when to use which product, 1/4 inch versus 1/2 inch, that I can also link to my agent. Instead of selecting each document, I'll select the entire folder so that Copilot knows all the information behind it and the agent has that foundational information. Now that that file is linked, I can also tell the agent what other sources to pull from. Sometimes AI is known to hallucinate. So if I don't want it to pull information from my emails, don't select the My Emails option. But if I want it to have the context behind Microsoft Teams, I can select my Microsoft Teams chats here. This will show my Microsoft Teams in the bottom, and that will be a linked knowledge base. I can also turn on some options here. I can have it search websites. I can have it only look at the sources that I specified so it doesn't go out and grab other information. And I can also have it reference my internal org chart or profile info if it's been set up. Then we have our agent capabilities. This is what the agent can do and produce. Do I want it to produce charts, codes, graphs? Do I want it to create images? I'll leave all of this on. I don't think it hurts for this agent, but depending on what you're building, you want to be careful about what you're creating. Then at the bottom, I can create my suggested prompts. These are going to be things that I can repeatedly ask the agent for, kind of like a prompt template. Here, I'll go ahead and I'll make a suggested prompt for quoting. This templated prompt will show up on the home page of the agent, where every time I go to it, I can ask it to help me produce a quote. I can also go ahead and create a find type prompt that will search across all those Excel sheets in one go. Maybe if I want to look at selected products from a certain list, I can use this find type prompt. Once I've set up all of the information, like the instructions, the name, the description, what information it's pulling from, and my guardrails, then I can go ahead and I can create this agent, which will now be available to me within the All Agents section or on my left-hand side. Now, with these agents, they are available to share to anybody in your organization that has a Copilot license. You can share it at the point that you created it, or you can simply head right on over to that agent and start using it. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the home screen of this agent looks like so that we can start working with it. Now, when I select this agent, I'll see those templated prompts right at the bottom, like quote and find. I can choose any of them, and they'll automatically fill within my prompt box. Here, I could ask the agent, a plumber needs a pressure balanced shower valve for a standard sub tower, rough-in, 1/2 inch connections. I want service stops. This will look at all of those spec sheets that are saved in that folder, as well as our pricing catalogs to help me determine the right fit. Once I'm ready, I can fire this off, and that agent has those defined instructions. It has those defined knowledge sources, and it's going to give me much higher and more accurate responses. If you would like to share this agent at any point, You can click on the three little dots here and share that agent with anybody in your org that has a Copilot license. Notice how it's looking across all of my different manufacturers or my pricing sheets. It found Aquaforge in a certain model. It helps build that technical description based off of our specs, as well as the key specifications of that certain product. It shows me our compliance, our typical applications, our warranty. I could even ask it to draft me a PDF or an email to then send to a customer with this information. And Stephen, while it's pulling up this information, with your extensive 20-year experience working with rep agencies, how could you see this tool being beneficial to people either in the field or in a back office?
Well, Tim, that's a great question. First of all, it's pretty amazing what you can do with the proper data put in here. So loading up your agent with the proper information so it can pull from is so important, as you were mentioning. But once that data is in there, whether you be in the field, even in front of the customer, being able to pull up this information in seconds instead of having to go back to your car or open your laptop, pull out the information or your tablet, find the pricing sheet, find the spec sheet, takes many minutes. But by loading all this data into specific agents, you'll be able to give access to people in the field as well as in the office information access in seconds. No, it takes a little bit of time to build the agent, but once it's built, it seems it'll be very fast for them. Agreed?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So, just a quick summary. When I think about agents, I like to compare them to a doctor. The general chat that you typically would work with in Copilot is kind of like your general practitioner. This is where you go if you're sick, if you're having a bad day, something hurts, but it's a jack of all and expert of none. Your agents are your specialists. Think about these like your oncologist, your cardiologist. When you have a problem with your lungs, you go to your cardiologist, that's your specialist, and they help you find and pinpoint that solution. Same thing with an agent. Remember, Microsoft has some great out of the box ones, as well as the ability to create your own, like we just saw. The world is your oyster. Give them a shot and make sure you clearly define those instructions. And I want to just hint on one last thing as we start to wrap up, which is another tool called Copilot Studio. And I'm going to head over to Copilot Studio by going to copilotstudio.microsoft.com. Now, this is a very technical tool. The agent you saw didn't have a lot of parameters. It had knowledge bases, it had the instructions, the description, and some capabilities. But if you really want to take this to the next level, you can head to Copilot Studio and you can create agents here. Now, I would say this is a little bit more technical in nature. There might be some predefined requisites in your org that has to be set up for these to work. But similar to what you just saw, I can come in here and create a blank new agent. I'll just call this sales and commission coach. Then I'll create this new agent and let's see what parameters or things that we can define here that are different. So the first thing that I have with Copilot Studio is that I can actually define the model that I want my agent to use. By default, the Agent Builder Lite that I just demoed to you will only use GPT technology when building or chatting with your agent. Here, I can actually use Claude or different types of models like GPT's advanced reasoning when working with these agents. So that's one thing right off the bat. The instructions very similar. I want to define what that agent has. The knowledge bases is really where the true power comes in. With these Copilot Studio agents, I can link to knowledge bases that are outside of the Microsoft ecosystem. With what I showed you before was only limited to your Microsoft data and web data. But if I wanted to integrate my CRM, if I wanted to bring data from my ERP or other tools, like ServiceNow, Salesforce, I could connect those here or build that integration into Microsoft Azure so it can have all of the information about all the different tools that my organization uses so that I can really create a one-stop shop AI model with tools that are not in the Microsoft ecosystem. Another big part about these agents is that you actually don't need a Copilot license for your organization to use them. With these agents, you can configure them so they're a pay-as-you-go type model. Meaning, if I wanted to share it with Steve and Steve didn't have a Copilot license, every time he asked a question to it, it would charge a per run use, maybe a penny, maybe two or three, depending on the amount he did it. So instead of having to pay that full license cost, you can configure these at more of a larger scale and have them on a run. It's important to have proper planning, proper technical requirements defined so that when you create these, they don't A, get too costly, and B, have the right kind of information. I don't have time to go into all of that today, but just as a quick recap with the difference between Copilot Studio and Agent Builder, remember with Agent Builder, it's available directly within the Microsoft 365 Copilot app. It requires no separate tool or advanced setup. It has access to all of your Microsoft data and which knowledge sources you want it to be. It also is a great tool for follow-up specs and summaries, but it does require a $21 per user per month license, which actually may be a little bit more if your company's running an enterprise license. For Copilot Studio, it's a lot more advanced, a lot more technical. You can connect more data beyond the Microsoft ecosystem. It supports multiple workflows and can be integrated into Power Automate. It is not a monthly subscription, but a per run cost. So with that being said, as we wrap up here, Steve, is there any last bullet points or any last talking items that you'd like to share?
No, I think that what we've done here, Tim, is between the two sessions, the first one where we gave a basic introduction to Copilot, and this one, which was excellent for defining how we take things to the next level. Hopefully, our audience has a great view on how to start using AI to their maximum advantage.
Wonderful. So if you folks are looking for any training on how to set up agents, understand Copilot foundationally more, or get AI best practices, please reach out to Stephen Turner. His contact information is on the screen. If you would like some more information about the technical requirements, setting up these advanced agents in Copilot Studio, or building really complex workflows leveraging Microsoft Copilot agents, we would love to sit down and do some free discovery with you here at BBB Text. Our contact information is also on the screen. Thank you so much for taking time to watch our video and learn more about agents in Copilot.